Hi, welcome to another video, and we're going to take a look at WRC9 and provide a full review of it. So it's just days before the actual WRC restarts again, following the chaos this year of COVID-19, and we have a new WRC title to go with it. So what new does it bring over last year's title, and is it worth picking up? Let's take a look. So we're going to start off with driving simulation, and I'm going to give WRC9 an 8.5 for this, because quite frankly the team at KT have once again further refined the handling model and the force feedback for this latest version of the WRC series, and again managed to raise the benchmark in these areas. They've improved upon the feel of weight in the cars, provided better feel from the tyres, and improved the suspension model. On top of this, the handbrake seems to have been tweaked to give an even more progressive feel. The end result is a series of small but significant improvements in the physics engine that's resulted in a clear improvement in terms of the physics engine. These improvements feed into the force feedback excellently, and the way that WRC9 communicates the level of grip as well as the changes in grip across different surfaces and over the course of a stage is a benchmark for rally titles. Now that is despite the need to tweak the force feedback settings from default, as certainly for my T300 they're too heavy and have too much drag as a standard. However, combine these changes I have mentioned, the positive ones, with the dynamic weather system introduced in WRC8, the impact that bumps and undulations have in unsettling the car as speeds rise, and you have, in my view, the new benchmark for handling physics and force feedback in rally titles. Only area that slightly lets it down is, whilst improved from last year, the collision detection is on occasion still a little bit off. So moving on now to racing simulation, and I'm giving it a 7 for racing simulation, because as with last year's edition of the series, judging the speed of the AI remains difficult, as almost none of the gameplay is head-to-head. It just leaves us the super special stages to use as a comparison. However, the AI is generally competent and fair, with a reasonable range of settings to match to your own ability. So moving on to another big area, a motorsport simulation, and I'm giving WRC9 a 9 in motorsport simulation. Whilst it's fundamentally unchanged from WRC8, the motorsport element of WRC9 is still simply one of the best around in terms of how well it creates the motorsport it's licensed from. As you would expect, it's got the full range of events from the WRC calendar included within it, with a solid amount of stage miles for each of them. Its career mode covers the feeder series from WRC Junior, WRC2 and WRC3 up into the WRC itself. A full team management career is the centre of the single player, and whilst you can run the career without it, you would be missing out on quite a bit in doing so. Not only are the staff in place for you to manage, they have an impact on your performance, combined with a very extensive research and development tree, manufacturers to keep happy and impress if you want to move teams, reliability testing to complete, historic races to compete in, and rest days to manage. In fact, it's so busy your team members get exhausted and need to be cycled in and out. Add in the always excellent stage design, which obviously still includes epic stages, which are the longest available in any rally title. Stages that really do still capture the unique nature of each location and are as narrow and challenging as they should be. And this is actually particularly true of the 3 new locations, Japan, New Zealand and Kenya, with, for me, New Zealand being the standout. Add in standards for the series like manual wipers and lights, manual handbrake starts with correct timing as you cross the timing line, the ability to run with seriously heavy damage, and a perma damage option that stops you from restarting, and it truly is a rally motorsport fan's dream. In short, WRC9, just like F1 2020, is the current benchmark for motorsport simulation. Neither of them are perfect, but they do set the standard for everyone else. Okay, moving on to accessibility, and WRC9 gets a 7 in this area. So accessibility has improved for this year's release, with with gamepad support better out of the box and new hints added to key sections of the title. It's small but much needed improvements. However, the default force feedback settings are, as I've mentioned, still too high and still have too much drag. One area about accessibility worth mentioning, because I know it does put some off, is that it does still run at 30 frames per second. So that, for a number of people, is an automatic no. However, it is worth pointing out it's a locked 30 frames per second, it's got 0 screen tearing, and the frame pacing on it is absolutely excellent. And personally, I've no issues with it being 30 frames per second at all. Content's up next, and going for an 8.5 on this. And it does seem a bit odd that we've kind of got used to the hundreds of miles of stages across every event location in the calendar that have become the hallmark of the WRC series. But combine that with a huge testing area and the staggering number of training activities within the training programme that was added last year, and of course all the cars and teams from the feeder series right the way up to the WRC itself. This year, the number of legendary and special rally cars has been increased, and a challenge mode's been added that uses the training locations and puts special events in place to build a tiered series of challenges for you to complete. Add in the career mode, the esport events, online, the regular challenges, options on how you run the career, and WRC9 offers a simply staggering amount of content. Alone, it would be enough to keep you busy for a very long time. But we also know it's been added to, or rather, that we know it will be added to via DLC, with more stages being added to Finland and Portugal, as well as a new concept car and photo mode, all of which is coming for free. So our last ranked category, value, and WRC9 gets an 8 for this, as it offers a huge amount of content for the money. And if you add in that upcoming DLC, which is free, it really does offer excellent value for money. There is still a single legendary car and super special stage, one from Spain, which is no longer on the calendar, locked behind the early access special edition, but that really does little to dent the impressive value that it does offer. So in summary, the hardest question to answer around WRC9 is if it offers enough over last year's version to warrant picking up. Now, I personally think it does, with the improved physics and force feedback along with the new locations, challenge mode and the upcoming DLC offering me more than enough to be worth the price. This does, however, need to be measured against the fact that I am an absolutely massive rally fan and a fan of the WRC series, and really only you can decide is if it offers enough over WRC 8 to be worth it. But I think if you do go for it, I'd personally be very surprised if you ended up disappointed with it. So that's my full review of WRC9 on the PlayStation 4 Pro in my case. Hopefully you've enjoyed this. If you have, please do give me a like, and if you want to see more content like this, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to be notified of any future uploads. Thanks very much. Take care. Bye.